welcome to the PitchBoxing app, and I'm delighted to be joined by Neil Marsh, boxing manager extraordinaire of late, I suppose. Neil, is that fair to say?
Yeah, I don't know about extraordinary. I'll just stick to the boxing manager.
So, yeah, you would never say that because you come across, to me, from all the times that I've seen you working with your boxers, very humble and almost staying out of the limelight. So doing things like this is a bit of a pleasure, and yeah, it's nice to see your face and hear your views on things.
Yeah, social media is unforgiving, isn't it? It's like this last year, there's been, excuse me, term, a lot of shit said, like from the likes of Eddie Hearn and people like this, and Virgil Ortiz's people. And unfortunately, if someone's got a bigger platform and opens their mouth more and more interviews, they're always going to try and make you look worse. And we try to work hard in silence and deliver. And this last week or so, I think we've done that. And a lot of things, what's happened over this last year, you put something out and then you get a load of haters on, and I'm thinking, you couldn't be so far from the truth. We're a good, honest team, like with the Black Country Boys, with Zach and with Carl and David. You know, we're a good, honest team, and you know we don't like being too public because we're fighting a losing battle with people who've got 1 million followers and different things. So it's better to work hard in silence.
Yeah, I mean, you were kind of drawn into it a while back with the whole Josh Kelly stuff, and you came out on top out of all that, ultimately, reputationally and in the ring. So the rare times that you do get involved, it seems like you pick and choose those battles and pick them quite well, both in the ring and out of the ring. So I'll come on to some of that in a little while, but I just want to touch on you as a manager and the fact, you mentioned it there about Zach Parker, David Avanesian being the two fighters you manage. How conscious is it to be that almost kind of boutique management style of just taking on the two fighters? And do you get lots of other approaches from people saying, come and do a job for me?
Yeah, I've had lots of approaches. I get them regular. A few years ago, I had about 20 odd fighters. It took over my life. Yeah. Started letting my business go downhill. I think the emergence of my young boy who's 9 years old. I remember many years ago, I was actually with Richard Poxon. I was doing the ITV show and in Preston. And
that the one this Robbie Davis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was doing that show and I played a leading part on that where I really got stuck in. And at the same time, I was doing Lamont Peterson and David. And I remember at the time, I was stressed as anything. My head was bashed. And my little boy come into my room wanting some of my time. And he said to me, something with Dad. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And he went, Dad's never got time. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart. Genuinely, it broke my heart. And I got over to America, came back, and I made massive changes in my life. And my child never has and never will say that again to me in my life. And sometimes you get wrapped up in boxing, and sometimes you need to look at what's most important. And as I said, family first. Zach and David are close second in the teams. But for me to take another fighter on, boxing's not a nice business, Martin. I'll tell you the way it is. And the way some people treat other people is disgusting. And I treat all my fighters like human beings, like they get close to me. And for me, I'm happy just managing the two fighters. And someone comes and steps on our toes, like you said, the battles, I'll come out with all guns blazing. And it's I'm sort of happy. I'm happier now in boxing than I ever have been. And with just a couple of fighters. Frank Warren's played a part in that. Frank's treated me better than any of the other promoters I've worked with. And, it's not always easy with his team. Sometimes they have a little argument with him and different things, and they'll have an argument with me. That's what a manager should do. But me and Frank, we both agreed, as long as we're both honest with each other and true to each other, we'll do the best for your fighters. And that's what's happened. And I thank Frank Warren so much. So the emergence of Frank, he's been true to his word, he's been honest. It's made things a little bit easier.
Going back to your point there about where it changed in about 2018 time, where your lad kind of came and said that to you, and then you made a conscious decision to change how you went about working. That's also tied in then with Avanesian's rise and Zach Parker, because that would have been about the time, I guess, Zach was fighting Daryl Williams up
Yes.
in Glasgow around then. And Avanesian would have been on the back of coming off the Lamont Peterson fight around then.
Yeah, was it not? I think it was a bit sooner. I think it was a bit sooner than that.
Okay. So yeah, those moments, I guess, correlate then when if you changed how you work, and then actually the success of the two lads that you're working with, that's a hell of a change to make, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, I just think that when you've got 20 odd fighters, and nothing against any other manager who's got it, I won't say a bad word against any of them. When you've got 20 odd fighters, like when I manage a fighter, I'm looking at videos, opponents, looking at suitable sparring. I'm doing it myself, looking at the rankings in the EBU, looking at them in the WBC, the WBO. I've been to WBA conventions, been to WBC conventions, and I feel that it's obvious that you're diluted when you've got 20 fighters. But when you've got a couple, you can concentrate more on them, and you can look for openings, you can look for things happening, you can spend more time. And has that played a part in the success? Possibly. But let's not put away the hard work what both fighters have done and the teams have done, because ultimately the improvements are in the gym, not what's just happening out of the ring. And I think it has helped. Yeah.
I remember hearing back to the stories of when you had an input into, say, getting Carson Jones over sparring partner, David, and the personal kind of financial impact for yourself, as much as time and energy and all those things. So you must build that very close relationship. And as you say, you're going away, looking at footage, finding those opportunities to exploit ultimately, whereby you move them into positions, and whether that's trading, whether that's influencing, whatever it may be, you're finding those opportunities for your lads. I would love to know how many phone calls you get in a month, Neil, asking somebody else or somebody else asking you to do the same role for them.
There hasn't been tons and tons. I get at least one a month.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, without going too much, I had a lot of health issues this last 18 months, not just with me. I was ill at one point, and a family member was really ill, and had a couple of bereavements, which I don't want to go into detail in any way. We've all got problems, every one of us. But you get a phone call, and you're going burying someone or mourning someone from a month ago. I haven't. This last couple of years has been a difficult time, and so when the phone calls have come in, they're probably calls I haven't really wanted. And that's nothing against anyone. It's no reflection on the kids or anything. If someone gives the time up for ring you and offers you to manage them, you should be grateful of that, because it's like you're the chosen one, or you're this. And I always reply, I always get back to them. And I probably, some people may have been felt let down when I've said no or different things, but I've had a lot going on this last couple of years, mate, to say the least. So when a gym rings you about two kids and you say no to them, I think they get a message that you're not interested in it. It's no reflection of the kids and no reflection of the gym. It's just, it's just boxing. I expect probably a few more over this next couple of months with what's just happened this last week. But I'm in a lot better place now, mate. So we'll see.
Good. Brilliant to hear. Let's go on to what's happened over the last week. So David Avanesian taking on Terence Crawford on December the 10th out in America, isn't it? Out of the blue, is that fair to say? Or was there more to it in the background that you knew about in advance?
No, it was out of the blue. I'd love to turn, like I remember going off. I remember when we got the Shane Mosley fight, I flown to Panama a week before Christmas. So, I spent a boatload of money and chased him around an hotel and waited. I got up at, I think it was 6:30 a.m. and waited at the breakfast. And he turned up about 1 minute to go to hassle him and just get the contact details. I'd love to be able to say that with Terence. It wasn't. It was a bit of luck. Saying that, once they touched base with me, I handed over respectfully to Queensbury. With Queensbury, they're very, very professional. There's nothing they don't know. The contract what came was very straightforward and honest from Crawford's people. with Frank's team. They'd ripped it bits upside down, not ripped it bits, said the side and protected us. So by the time it come to me, don't get me wrong, I was doing a lot of communication with Frank's team, coming backwards and forwards, and it was a late night, etc. Hassling my lawyer, Robert Davis, who you'll know, he was in the middle of the Tyson Fury negotiations, which is order. It happened quickly. So it came out the blue. We had to work hard. We've had to work hard after, and but we got it done. And so very lucky to have it done.
Yeah, and what an opportunity as well, and what a well-deserved, hard-earned by David opportunity. Has it been frustrating since that Josh Kelly fight that there hasn't been this opportunity come along, but now you've got it, it almost makes up for those 18 months?
It was frustrating with Matchroom. They did nothing for him. They left him sat on fence. And then when I was ready to terminate, they tried to steal our asset in the EBU title. And that's the fact. Don't listen to the shit Eddie comes out with. I'm sorry, but the only thing you can ever say is we refused the WBA eliminator. Yeah, we did. But you'll not see the 100 videos out there contradicting himself like you will with him, like, for example, the Conor Benham and Callis Howland and different things. You'll see nothing like that with us. We refused it because we'd lost trust. The kid had who they offered us was due a fight 2 months after. So we have to sit on fence, give you our belt and hope he doesn't get injured. Go on, Eddie, don't play the fool. So it's like I said on another interview, it's like you say you're going to win Euro Millions, but you have to pay 10 million for a ticket. What good's that? Don't listen what's on the surface and what comes out of people's mouths. There's a lot in the background. So we refused that. It was frustrating, but we went straight into Liam Taylor. No disrespect to Liam. We knew it was a routine win. He took care of business. What was important for David, what the fans need to understand, who are critical, a fighter needs earned money. And David had only boxed twice in 2.5 years. And he needed activity. Frank promised us activity. So he put up, Sky won the purse bid for Liam Taylor. We went ahead with it. He treated us well, no problems. Frank got us out as promised. Straight away, we met. I was in Mexico City with Francis Warren trying to get the Ortiz fight. But no, that was before. No, was it before? Sorry. Yeah, that was... When was that? That was slightly after, wasn't it? Where we campaigned for the Ortiz fight. Yep. We got the Ortiz. No, sorry. It was before the Mets fight because Ortiz requested one fight. So we got one fight. So we went to Mexico City. We got the final eliminator. But a war flared up. And David was registered as a Russian. They put a low ball offer into Frank. I think other promoters were mixing a bottle saying he's a Russian passport, But when the truth always comes out, David's got an Armenian passport, and we had to sort all that out, which we did. Yeah. They put a low ball offer into Frank, and then they started shouting, "Oh, you've run off. David Avanesyan doesn't run off. The fact is Virgil Ortiz had announced an eliminator against someone else, pulled out injured, announced another eliminator. And then, Rick Milligan, his manager, put a tweet out saying, "We will never fight you. We're going to fight Crawford and Keith Thurman and et cetera, et cetera." Well, you're not fighting them. You're still sat on the fence. We're the ones who will fight people. You're obviously the ones who need to fight people. And so when people say frustrated, if we look at the year we've had, we fought Liam Taylor. David got paid well. He fought Metz. He splattered him like you'd expect a world-class fighter. He got paid well. He earned more money in them 2 fights than he had in 2.5 years. So now we've got a fighter who's happy. We get the WBC order Ortiz, politics, stop it. And then Frank's putting us out in November against Miguez. So in 12 months, we've had 3 fights. That isn't a bad year, mate. I can understand the fans being frustrated that they want to see David against Furman or Garcia. But you're not going to get near them and fighters unless you're bringing something to the table. So then we get Terence Crawford. So if you put it all together, 2 fights, chance of Ortiz type Spence, and then we get Crawford over the line. I think that's been a tremendous year.
Yeah. No, it's a hell of a year for him. I wanted to pick up on something Hearn had said about this fight. I don't know whether you've seen it or not, from one of his interviews, is word for word, verbatim, was Crawford Avanesian is a fight that nobody wants to see. Terence makes money for an easy fight. Taking away the actual kind of emotion behind it, but is it quite offensive to you, to David, to the team, to Carl, to everybody, to say it's an easy fight?
How can I say? Eddie Hearn's behaviour towards us is nothing short of disgusting, and I'll say it outright. Let's go back slowly but slowly. He's like it's like we've cheated on him or something. It's like we've left him and he's split up with his girlfriend or something. Let's go back slowly but surely but slowly. He's just started slagging the fight off, one what he couldn't deliver for us. One that he told us after the Kelly fight, he'll get us a big fight, and he reneged on it. He then pops up having a dig, trying to make, he's doing a lot more interviews, not this last week or so because of what's happened with Ben. I think he's run off to Australia and Mexico, I think, hiding, and I don't blame him with the mess that is. But he's slagging David off, saying no one wants to see it. All the British public, if you put a poll out, I don't think there's one British fight fan that wouldn't want to see that. If Eddie had promoted David correctly, a lot more people in the world would want to see it. And that's a fact. Then you look at the Americans was looking at David's last loss 4.5 years ago. They really wanted Spencer and Crawford. I could understand the disappointment. And I agree with Eddie that the $10 million, if that's what Crawford's getting, he's getting a shitload of money. But if you look 2 weeks ago, and I'm sure you'll find this, Eddie Hearn piped up yet again, saying, look at Avanesian's career, it's stalled. Eddie, I put a tweet out. Eddie, you've got egg on your face. You couldn't have said it at a worse time. What an absolute fool who keeps opening his mouth and putting his foot in it, like they did on the fight week of Conor Ben. Contradictory stuff. He can't help himself. I bet his dad tells him you should keep your mouth shut, because he then starts saying David's career stalled. So what a stall? 2 fights in 2.5 years with Eddie, or 2 fights in 4 months and then a WBC final eliminator, then Terence Crawford. If this is what stalled David's career, please tell me. Eddie seems jealous or bitter. I don't know what it is. He's obsessed. And prior to that, he kept popping up about Alexis Rocha, kept throwing David's name in. We haven't done an interview for 8 months, if you look. We've just shut up, worked hard, and let him go on and go on and go on and go on and go on. And he keeps opening his mouth. The time before that, it's David Avanesian did 7,000 figures on BT at UFC, at BT Sport. Let me tell you the difference between Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. Frank Warren knew that BT Sport were running a show the same night with a huge event with UFC. And Frank rung me up and said, and with the political stuff, what were going on, he said, don't worry, I'm going to get your kid out. And we knew that event would suffer, but he got David out. And if Eddie Hearn goes head-to-head with a UFC show on DAZN, how many subscribers are going to tune in on that boxing show that night for a European title? It's going to be the same. So he keeps kicking us and kicking us and kicking us and kicking us. And there's that many people send me videos. It's like, you're an embarrassment, mate. You didn't deliver for us. We left you because we lost trust and you failed your contract. You're telling people a load of crap. So it does hurt our pride. And what hurts is when I know I've managed David for 7 years. I've rung him up and said, you want to fight, for example, Shane Mosley? Yes, my friend. What I get paid when I start? He goes and does it. My friend, I said, David, you want to fight Peterson? Yes, my friend. Get me more money. David, you want to fight Kavalauskas? Yes, my friend. You want to fight? He's superstarring Josh Kelly, right? No disrespect to Josh. Camps have been fine afterwards. You want to fight him in London? Yes, my friend. He's hard as absolute nails. You want to go and fight Terence Crawford? Oh, fucking yes, my friend. and you get a prize clown turning around saying that David Avanesian's run off from him and he's not worthy of this, he's not this. Let the boxing public just laugh at him, because the only reason, he's always going to have a loyal following who'll always support him through thick and thin. But the real boxing people know the truth. We're a good, honest, hard-working team. Don't slag me fighter off who all he's been desperate for is an opportunity that he would never give.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, any word on Conor and the testing regime, or is it something that you kind of sit and discuss with David and say, look, that was maybe a problem swerved in terms of should David have ever ended up in that scenario against Conor, or is it still something that David says, no, give me him in the future?
No, like Eddie's good at playing games, like without going on his timing of slagging David off fight week, saying he'd stalled a fight week at Conor Benn. Now, with Conor Benn, we was under no illusion we would never ever get that fight. But with regards to Josh Kelly, with Conor, I always said it was the people around Conor heaping pressure on that young man's shoulders. So, cut long story short, you get all these people hyping him up, and then we played the game back, me and Carl and etc., because we thought, well, we're going to make this job harder for you. We're going to put you in the spotlight. Yep. So we did, and up until about 8 months ago, we banged the drum, Conor Benn, because David's not happy with Conor that he tried to steal his belt, and Eddie as well tried to steal his belt. We're not happy with him. It's disgusting. And so, because we was aggrieved, we thought, we're going to put a lot of pressure on you. So we knew that fight had never happened. We're not interested in the fight. Would we have it? Of course we would. But Conor was in the same position as us. You couldn't get near them belts. So because Eddie had hyped Conor up so high, the only way he could have gone and got a fight for Conor is the WBA one. But they don't fancy Stanios. So now Conor Benn's been thrown into Conor Benn, which was ludicrous in my opinion. I think Conor Benn's been thrown in with Eubank. Eubank beats the kid. And then you see the event and all that. It's a car crash. Contradicting us. It's absolutely... Him and Callis Howell they made a fool of themselves. Let's just say it. Look at the videos. And with regards to VADA drug testing, a B sample's the same as the A. It both goes in the same pot. I'm not buying into, we'll look at this, we'll look at that. But they knew on the 23rd of September. And they let the hard-working public... Let's say how it is. We all know a load of hard-working public who'd wait till end of month to book the trains, or because they're living month by month on. And that's the part I'm disgusted in. They knew they knew about that. And for me, Conor Benn has been thrown in a fight, and if he does get convicted, which I expect him to, but let's give him the benefit of doubt, even if it's 1% or whatever it is. I think a lot of pressure has been put on that young man's shoulders. It's disgusting that if he has took the steroids, which it looks like, and he'll serve a punishment. But all that could have been avoided. They should have just developed Conor a bit slower. You had a potential national treasure there, didn't you? I'm not saying he'd have ever reached Ricky Hatton's ability, but with the name, the popularity growing and different things, you could have done a great job with Conor Benn. You're a fantastic job. Like some of the others, like Josh Kelly and, the other guys who's been beat along the way. And, I just think that they're hyping pressure on these kids. And with regards to VADA, I expect Conor to be to be banned. I'm not buying there's any justification in it, but let him prove us wrong. But again, I don't think it will. And if we was ever to enter into a fight with him, it would be straight full VADA drug testing straight away. So the fact that he got picked up with Chris Eubank, it would have potentially been picked up with us. Because if he has been taking these cycles and these masking agents, he'd have been under the same advice for the fight against us. So there's a chance that he'd have slipped up there as well, if that's what's happened.
Yep, not that VADA testing seems to be that relevant when they try and get around it. But there you go.
Do you know what, Martin? Why do parties sign up to VADA drug testing and then try to ignore the findings?
It's beyond me. It's beyond me. Why pay the money if you're not going to listen to the results? More positive
100%.
More positive news though. Zach Parker, your other charge. What a fight. John Ryder, 26th of November at the O2, WBO super middleweight title. That's been a frustrating pathway, I guess, for Zach Parker after the Andrade fight at Derby. Gets called off, goes back to purse bids, Andrade pulls out. unarguably, in my view, a better fight against John Ryder than it was ever going to be against Andrade. Like, again, is this one that has kind of crept up on you, or is that one that was always in the back pocket, knowing that Andrade was questionable about his commitment?
No, I'm a little bit shocked it got made. And I'm very critical about Eddie, but I thank him this time for allowing one of his fighters to go on Queensberry. You know, you'll not hear me thank Eddie much, but I do in this occasion. Once we're wary of Andrade, you've got to then start thinking who's next in ratings. John Ryder, Belanga. Then you have people like Iggy off, but he's Russian.
Yeah.
And you have Plant. I think the only names who were available would potentially be Ryder, Belanga. Plant was having a fight, and I think DeCarolis, number 9, who's now just recently announced a fight. So we've obviously got our eye on who we can get for that fight. But Frank Warren did the fight, completely did the fight. He just said, how do you fancy John Ryder? Again, Zach, this is what Zach needs. Zach needs a John Ryder. Got a lot of respect for John. He's been there and seen it. He's been in with some great names. I think he beat Callum Smith. No disrespect to Callum, he's been a great fighter. And I think he lost to Daniel Jacobs. And John Ryder is what Zach Parker needs in his career. You know, it's like some of these names Zach's smashed to bits, like that Vaughn Alexander and Kushinov. People will always say, oh, he's this young. Alexander's a dangerous opponent for most people. Kushinov, been, I think, 2 or 3 Olympic Games and 2 Worlds. They're not mugs, but you'll never get the credit for fighting them guys than you will for a John Ryder. So we've got John Ryder now, and this is the time where people look at Zach and can measure him and say, that's what he's done with John Ryder. Or John Ryder's thinking the opposite way around. But Zach Parker will beat John Ryder, and that's a fact. You know, you'll see, Martin, you'll see. We've just never been given, similar to David, like we were starved of opportunities with a previous promoter, never given it. Lots of false promises and not honouring contracts and different things. But now we've gone with Frank. He gave us our fights. He got him momentum, got him a big smile on his face, started improving rapidly. And now we've got John Ryder. We're happy, we're ready. It's perfect, man. It's good.
Yeah, he's the definition of like a slow burn fighter, isn't he, Zach Parker? He's done, was it 10 fights before he got past kind of 6 rounds? He's gone under the radar. I think people that are into small hall boxing would have known Zach Parker for many, many years. But I think up until probably that Luke Blackledge fight, I guess, probably put on the radar of many. And then he kind of progressed on to the Darryl Williams fight up in Glasgow. And then again, he's been, even what you said there, Marcus Morrison, he won't get the credit for doing to Marcus Morrison what Chris Eubank didn't do to Marcus Morrison. As you say, he's made vast improvements over the last probably 24 months. Is there any risk, any concern that John Ryder is a leap kind of above where he's been at present, or is it just he needs that opportunity to show what he's about now?
We was ready for John Ryder 12 months ago. A lot of development, like you said, from the Small Hall show. He was on all my shows. Yeah. And I think I had him after, 6 fights or 7 fights. And then I put him out in Birmingham and all shows and different things. And when fighters get developed at the smaller stage, they get put in with kids 2 weeks notice, etc., etc. Yeah. But we were paying a little bit more for tough, durable men with 5 and 6 weeks notice. And he was smashing them to bits. Because I knew putting him in, he'd knock someone out in a round, 2 rounds. You're wasting money, you're wasting the time on the kid's development. So I've got no doubts that we've developed him well. Went with the Sowlands. I'll let Zach tell you that story when he's ready. That didn't end well. And we're glad to see it back of him. And but one fight we did do was the Rowan Murdoch. Yeah. Now, I think if you put Rowan Murdoch in with most people, like your British names, like a John Ryder, like a Rocky Fielding, no disrespect to Rocky, like these type of names, I think he beats all these people. And I don't think, again, going back to the comment, he was an Australian no one knew much about. And I don't think Zach got the credit he deserved off it. There's one blemish on his record, and that's Darryl Williams. But I handled the report afterwards. Zach Parker detached his shoulder in 3 places in round 1. Watched the fight back. He fought with 1 arm.
Yep.
And it was only Darryl Williams' inexperience that he didn't pick up on it. Otherwise, he could have done more to Zach that fight if he'd have just worked around it. But, you know, every great fighter has had close scares, and we had one that night. But again, it's like going back to the Eddie comment about Rocha. People only look at what comes out the mouth. They don't look at what's happened. He detached his shoulder, dislocated it in 3 places, and the shoulder surgeon, a world-renowned surgeon called Len Funk, said that's the most heroic thing he's seen in 25 years of being a surgeon. So, listen, we're not interested about blemishes in the past. You said about John Ryder, and is now the right time. Yes, it is the right time. We can't wait. We've got a lot of respect for John. We've got, you know, you don't go in with Callum Smith and Jacobs and terrorise them both if you're a bad fighter. But I just rate Zach Parker that highly. He's a world-class fighter. He's never been given the opportunity. And John's been handpicked by us. So, you know, happy days.
Yeah. And it can't be anything but an exciting fight. John's always an exciting fight. Zach's, as you say, he's picked up tremendously around how he's developed. I know John's fight or sparring the likes of Craig Richards, Felix Cash down in that gym, getting ready for it. Like, that fight on November 26th at the O2, people need to go and get tickets. People need to be tuned in on BT Sport. That fight will catch fire and will be a lot of fun, I'm sure. But Zach is presumably incredibly confident going into it.
Yeah, as a team, we're incredibly confident. Every fighter who becomes world champion and goes on has these type of John Ryder fights on the way up. The tough British kid who's been and seen it all and terrorised world champions, etc. Am I right in saying the only thing he's not done is won a world title, John Ryder? Yeah. You know, as good as. And it's like he's earned his stripes, but most talented kids, when they get to a level, come across a John Ryder. And that's it. We're just at that road now. We're at that crossroads, you know, so.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I look forward to it. November, you're going to have a busy end of this year. November at the O2, December out in America with David. Neil, it's been a pleasure, and it's great to see you getting so much success with all your lads, and hopefully 2 new world champions for you by the end of the year.
100%, mate. Pleasure to talk to you as well.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much, Neil, for PitchBoxing. Been a pleasure. Thank you, and enjoy all the time you get up until November, December.